Good evening. Tonight, we're going to try to look at one of the big questions when it comes to Bigfoot, Dogman, other cryptozoological creatures, other strange things people see in the woods and wildlands, all across the world, really. The first major question, the whole reason we look into this subject, the whole question that we have is what are they? Where did they come from? Why are they here? Now, with natural creatures like lions, tigers, bears, oh my, we have specimens of them, we've studied them, we've photographed them in the wild, we have them in captivity, we've studied them inside and out, we know quite a lot about them. When it comes to these creatures that are rarely seen, when it comes to these creatures that defy our logic as far as evolution, even creation by God, and oftentimes seen in habitats that are not conducive to support such a large creature, albeit beast or man or somewhere in between, like an 800-pound Sasquatch in the middle of the desert. Where's it going to find enough food and water? Or a very dry, arid region in the pine forest where there's just not a lot of creatures and not a lot of moisture for them, yet they're being seen. So I think one of the major theories we're going to talk about tonight, and that's what this video is about, is we're going to talk about the origin theories. Each theory isn't necessarily separate. It could be all these theories together. One could be completely wrong. And each one has its own plot holes we're going to talk about a little bit. And we're just going to kind of do a quick overview. The first one is the flesh and blood theory, and I think this is where most people start off. Most logical human beings, especially people first getting into this subject, people who might necessarily have an interest in Sasquatch or maybe even Dogman, but aren't on the paranormal train. They're not into ghosts, they're not into demons, they're not into aliens, they're not into any of that kind of stuff, and they just view it as a flesh and blood creature. And these things seem to leave footprints, they seem to interact with their environment, they seem to be the masters of their environment. And they leave hair samples, DNA, they eat, sleep, walk, poop. They do all the things a creature would do. So the flesh and blood theory makes a lot of sense, but what doesn't make a lot of sense is why would the government try to cover up a natural creature? Could it be the logging industry? Why do these things appear, like I mentioned earlier, in deserts or in areas where there's very little food? Why do these things sometimes reported with red eyes or disappearing or with orbs or getting an overwhelming feeling of dread? Not scared of a wild animal, but something like pure evil looking at you. Especially with the Dogman and some of the most bizarre cryptid creatures. So there's a lot of reasons why the flesh and blood theory, that these are a naturalistic creature that came by either through evolution or by creation of God or through overtime, that these are just a natural creature that happen to be very cunning. And for me, that doesn't always explain the whole mystery of these creatures and a lot of their powers and phenomenons and things that people report. So another real popular theory, if we want to stick to more of a scientific explanation, is an interdimensional theory. Science has proven the existence of different dimensions, whether it be through the vastness of space and alternate planets or just vibrational frequencies existing in the same area, different planes of time, different offshoots of time. And maybe these creatures, these beings, Bigfoot, Dogman, and alike, have an ability, or maybe they don't have the ability, but maybe they are controlled by something that has the ability to put them in and out of our dimension, in and out of our vision per se, for what our eyes can perceive, what our ears can hear, to what we can touch. Lots of reports of Dogman being shot at and it having no effect, like the bullets went right through, like they were a hologram. And, it makes you really think that would explain a lot of the more bizarre encounters and why they're found in areas that wouldn't support such a large creature for a long period of time. Because maybe there's some kind of a portal or some kind of a dimension or vortex, or they have the ability themselves to phase in and out of our reality. So another popular theory for a lot of these creatures is DNA manipulation, whether it's through modern governments or an ancient civilization or a combination of the both. Maybe millennia ago, many tens of thousands of years ago, some ancient race created these creatures and did some kind of genetic crossbreed and made a chimera, if you will, and their descendants are still roaming the woods today. And maybe some of their descendants have been manipulated by modern governments and modern organizations and set loose for who knows what purpose, to be guardians, to be super soldiers, to just see if they can do it. Who knows? And that's another popular theory, is the DNA manipulation. Now, one theory that's very common out there, if you're a biblical sort, is that they're a Nephilim or an offshoot of the Nephilim. That either they're not necessarily the giants of old in the Nephilim or the great men of the Nephilim that were the offshoots of angels and the daughters of men, but maybe there was some kind of genetic manipulation, or they have some, very tiny fraction of their blood mixed with maybe an ape-like creature or a dog-like creature, or different creatures around the world that use their base genetics mixed with a human being. And, they're an abomination. They're like the Nephilim. They're an abomination. They're something that shouldn't be. And that would explain maybe even some of their more paranormal type things that happens and have been encountered with all these creatures. And another theory that's kind of a little side by side with that theory as well, the Nephilim, speaking of mountain giants, is maybe that there's something alien. Maybe that some other distant species have dropped them off on this planet. Maybe some other interdimensional species, or maybe humans from the very far away future have been putting these things back in time to spawn some evolution, to spy on us, to just dump these creatures to who knows what nefarious or good end that maybe it's something we can't even comprehend. So maybe there's some kind of intelligent alien species that use these things. And along with the Nephilim, I think there's a little more of a demonic paranormal theory to these things. Somebody I was talking to, who is a self-described demonologist, said that it would be much easier for a demon or demonic entity to make you hallucinate, to take over your mind, to trick your eyes, even 3 or 4 people, to make you think you're seeing one of these creatures, which is why maybe in some reports that they move and it doesn't make a sound, or people shoot at it and it has no effect, because it's not really there. It's a hallucination brought on by a demonic entity, versus a demonic entity manifesting itself into a physical form, which would be a far greater expense of energy. And why would they do that? Just to scare some humans. So that was a very interesting take on it as well. Also, I think that kind of has to go with the paranormal type aspect of these things, is maybe there is some kind of a connection to ghosts and spirits with these creatures. A lot of Native American tribes describe them as kind of a spirit animal. So maybe there's some manifestation of nature spirit, or some kind of an ancient god or deity that we don't understand, that can manifest itself into a Sasquatch or a Dogman to scare people away, to give people a warning, to remind them to respect the woods. Maybe it needs our negative energy or positive energy brought on by these creatures, and maybe there's just some kind of paranormal aspect that makes these creatures appear to us. So these are just a few theories I wanted to throw you guys out there today, let you guys know. I'm always kind of a mix. I think they're flesh and blood creatures. I think that they leave footprints and create, but I also think they have abilities some would deem unnatural. I also think that maybe there is some kind of an alien connection that might actually be interdimensional. Maybe they have a genetic manipulation or something going on with these creatures, and maybe that's why the government doesn't want you to find out about it. I mean, you can kind of pick and choose and add. These are just some of the ideas out there for what people are seeing and why it doesn't make sense. And I just want to tell you folks, thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe. Let's all be nice to each other. Let's all help each other, and stay safe in the woods, folks.